So my guest today is my councilman, so I want to make sure you guys know that. A man I personally know, respect deeply. A man whose work in the city touches every neighborhood, every school, every block that matters to the people. Listen to this right now. Councilman Curtis Jones has served this city with depth of understanding and only comes from lived experience. He's passed landmark legislation on police oversight, tenant protections, public safety, education. He secured tens of millions of dollars for community projects that change lives and that carries a personal story that will stop you in your tracks. I want you to hear from, listen to, learn from, and then circle back and listen to the podcast again, because you can't get it all in one bite. You can't get it all in one pass. This is not the microwave move. This is something that you're going to have to sit with after you listen to my councilman. So without further ado, Councilman Curtis Jones. My first question for you is, before we talk about policies and legislation, let's talk about the man. You built a career in public service that spans decades right here in Philadelphia. Walk my listeners through the journey. Where did it start? And what moment told you that public service was your path?
Thank you for having me, first and foremost. And that's a very good opening question. My path was not a direct path. My path had turns and steps and hills and valleys. But it started consciously when I moved to Winfield. 1967, young guy. My parents bought a house. It was like a come up, similar to Overbrook Park. You know, parents buy their homes looking for a better future for their young people. And just like two bad kids, me and my brother, get up there and we're looking at grass for the first time.
I know that.
Not just in the middle of the cracks of the concrete. And we are looking at a more middle-class neighborhood. So my brother got the memo and went to get his self together. And I ran right up to the corner and started hanging out with the bad kids. Mm-hmm. And they were, because my mother was a single parent, they were my surrogate brothers and sisters, AKA old heads. And I learned a great deal from them. I went to Beaver and, there were certain rules. Your first day, don't lose your first fight or you'll be on the Jenny Craig diet for the rest of the year. And so you learn those kinds of things that my mother could not teach me. But as we got older and it got more serious, I'll never forget, track and field saved my life. I was running, I was cutting class, I'm at Overbrook, I run into the gym, and all of a sudden they're signing people up for track. And so the coach said, well, we can see you can run. And so we're going to ask you to sign up. Started with cross country to give you some sense of my physical prowess. My nickname was Turtle, so I was slow and steady, but I was going to finish the race. But in that experience, met other guys from other neighborhoods that transcended the gang thing, because we were teammates. And so they got a pass in my neighborhood, I got a pass in their neighborhood. So some of the guys I left on the corner really didn't like me being absent from gang activities. So I was coming home, I was tired, I had my track sneaks, my cleats over my shoulder, and I'm coming up 54th Street, and one of my old heads was sitting on a milk crate, and he had a half-ball stick, that his hat tilted to the side, and he's sitting there, and he was overseeing his corner, overseeing his kingdom. And I started, I'm horrible like this. I started singing, you're the king, you're the king, you're the king of nothing. And when he realized the punchline, he started chasing me down the street. Now, fortunately, I just came from track practice.
Yeah.
He couldn't catch me. After that experience, we were partying. We had socials. So we had these clubs, and they would cha-cha, they would do other things. And they would come from places like down the bottom. Girls would come up on the bus, we'd meet them at the bus and go party. This one night, it was raining, and I'm going down Upland Way, and we're under the umbrella. Somebody came out of the driveway, shot into the crowd, and killed the young lady I was with. Her name was Maria Holloway. And the guy looked, he didn't mean to do it. He was just trying to scare us, but it had deadly impact.
Yeah.
So I'm in 10th grade, and I didn't want to, what we call snitch. He wound up turning himself in. But this young lady's brother was like a real influential guy down the bottom. And he believed that somehow it was my fault that the murder happened. So he came up our neighborhood for a week straight, chasing people, shooting at people. And then finally, it was the night of the funeral, and I went to the funeral. And I'm sitting in the funeral, and he was sitting up front, I was in the back, and one of his colleagues, friends, told him I was back there, and he turned around, tears flowing out his face, and he looked. 2 guys that were with him went and got in the row behind me, so I wasn't leaving. And I stayed until after the service.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked me around to a house. I swore I wasn't coming home.
Yeah.
But he asked me what happened, and I told him. And I said, and if it happened some other way, why would I be here? And he respected it.
Okay.
And he let me live, literally. It was funny, 20 years later, a guy who is now successful, but he lived down the bottom, Fred Williams.
Okay.
We were talking, and I'm telling him about my experiences down the bottom. He said, I was there that night. So he validated and knew it was true. I say all of that changed. That was the demarcation point for me.
Okay.
That I realized there is not a retirement plan future in being a hoodoo.
I know that's right.
And the life expectancy is a lot different. Your trajectory to be more likely to be in prison is higher. And I started sneaking away from up the way, and I was delivering orders for a delicatessen called Miller's Inn. And ironically, it was 2 people, judges, lawyers in City Hall. And so I'm seeing the difference between how the men in the kitchen were treated versus the men in suits in the courtrooms were treated. Big difference. And I decided I could fit a suit. And so I would get my tip money, I would put the $20 on the outside, and I had a rubber band, and I'd go up the way and let them believe what they believe.
Yeah.
But the reality was I was trying to find an exit out of that lifestyle.
I got you.
And it happened. I wound up at the House of Umoja with Sister Falaka Fatah, met Shaka Fatah, and we started conspiring, collaborating about a youth movement to clean up politics.
Okay.
And we had conventions at high schools, and that led to who I am today.
That's a great introduction. So since we're now into politics, you served on the council level across administrations navigating Philadelphia politics. What's the most important lesson this work has taught you about people and about power that you didn't expect going in?
So the first day I got elected, I had a party for my volunteers right outside. I had a band, I had a catered, and everybody was having a wonderful time in the hallway. And there was a family sitting out in front of my office, a woman and husband and 2 children. And so I asked them, you have a good time? Yes. Was the food good? Yes. Did you like the music? Yes. Are you okay? No. Mark, they were homeless. And reality hit me in the forehead that this is why I'm here. Parties are nice, the parades are nice, but people needed services. And so fortunately, I had my little Rolodex and I'm going through it, and I got a whole crew from the homeless shelters over here, only to find out that the lady had mental health issues, so she could not be allowed in regular shelters. So we got her a voucher, 3 days, and they worked it out. And, other than that, they would have been sleeping under a bridge. So what did I not know? That Vincent Hughes, Senator Hughes, told me, I asked him, what's it like being elected? And he said, it's the easiest job you will ever have if you don't care about people. It is the hardest job you will ever have if you do. And that is so true. If you take this like a bill collector, a bureaucrat, fill this form out in triplet clip, you're missing the point. I can, Mark, get your gas turned back on, get you a LIHEAP grant, show you the way to a PHA. But if I'm talking to you like you're less than, if I treat you with disdain, if I make you feel worse leaving than you did when you were coming out, it's a saying, people often don't remember what you did for them, but they always will remember how you made them feel.
How you treated them, that's right.
How you treated them. And so that I learned. Another point I learned was that intelligence and brilliance doesn't just start at Capitol Grill. It can start at that basketball court you run around on. Some of my best pieces of legislation came from people that in aisle 6 at ShopRite said to me, Councilman, you got a minute? I was thinking. And some of that bubbles up some really good stuff. A senior coming out of a senior facility, having just voted, said to me, yeah, this building's nice, but as soon as it gets dark, there's no security in the lobby. There's nobody stopping, checking people coming into the apartment building. And they're looking for victims. So, Mark, we are in September doing a piece of legislation requiring naturally occurring retirement communities, meaning people with seniors, to require them to have either a watchman or a person in the lobby. during the hours of 10 to 6. Second thing on that, and we call it the senior security ordinance, is that when first responders come to those same apartments, they don't know who's immobile, who needs a walker, what apartments they should go to, and prioritize. We're going to make sure that there's a manifest at the lobby that they can say, Miss Davis in apartment 1A needs a walker, and so she needs assistance.
That's good.
And so having that is a part of it. And so the good legislation don't always come from some think tank downtown. It comes from aisle 7 at Shop Rep.
Conversations, yep.
Yep, conversations and solving regular problems.
So I've heard you say this before. You said identifying what people need versus what they simply want, and negotiating to win those public policies is not just a debate. Give me an example of that practice in a moment where you found common ground in an unlikely place and delivered something real for our communities.
So there was the Penn Wynn Apartments on Lebanon and Birmingham. There was something happening. You see it at a lot of our senior facilities now, where they originally started out on a lease that was subsidized for affordable, and then 20 years later, it's now coming off of that, and the residents are no longer protected. Penn Wynn was one of those apartments, matter of fact, one of the first ones in my district. So I'm walking by, I'm seeing a protest, and some young activists are out there with the residents, and I walk up and I ask what's going on, and they tell me that they're being evicted without just cause. So they're not renewing their leases, even though they're current on their rent. They won't give them a valid reason why they won't renew. They just don't renew in order to find market rate people to move in. So I got them together with HAPCO and some of the apartment owners, and we're at this table we're at right now, negotiating. What word, if, therefore, thy fifth, is there, gives it a different meaning. And we're negotiating. And Mark, I'm going to tell you, they were wearing me down.
Okay.
And back then, Judge Williams, Samantha Williams, was my LA and attorney. And I'm trying to compromise to get to yes. So I'm conceding this, I'm conceding that. She literally kicked me under the table and said, Councilman, you're not giving up another thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you step back another inch, it won't be the legislation that you propose.
Okay.
And that was a wake-up call that was valuable. And so, but out of it, I think we got 70% of what we wanted.
Okay.
So that people had to put in writing why they no longer wanted to renew your lease. That you had to give them moving expenses. So you can't just put them out, first month, last month, getting somewhere else is something you're responsible for.
Yes, sir.
And so that kind of negotiations, common sense solution has resulted in 2 other iterations of that bill. And I'll give you a better one. Sheriff sales. I came in here, when I first got here, a guy walking down the hallway, literally random, said, you better check on sheriff sales. It's going to be the highest recorded number of sheriff sales in the history of Philadelphia. So I called then Sheriff Green. I said, is it true? He was out on the golf course. He hung up on me. So I go to Judge Rizzo, who officiates over the sheriff's sales. I said, is it true? She says, yeah, there's some truth to that, but there's nothing you as a legislator can do. That's in our purview, our wheelhouse. So I'm thinking, come on. So it was budget time. So I said, the sheriff has the responsibility of calling on sheriff's sales. The courts had a responsibility of conveying property, but I have the responsibility of appropriations, and I will zero both of you out so that you can't buy paper clips until this is resolved. And it worked. I was bluffing. I had my cards like this, and they believed me.
You had nothing in your hand.
No, so it bubbled up. It is a national program that Senator Hines and Senator, what's his name who just lost, Casey, took all the way up to the feds and is a role model for here. So we got moratoriums on sheriff sales. We're requiring housing counselors to work it out. Because you could get behind 6 months because you got laid off, but you got your job back. Let them catch up.
So I noticed that, first of all, for people that's not listening from the city, I want you to give us a little overview of what the Carousel House is and why it was so important for you to get secure funds for the Carousel House.
So very few that cater to people with special needs or physical disability. This was one that serviced the whole city. It had an elevated wheelchair lift to drop people into pools that could get physical therapy to be inside and do pool workouts. It had wider door spaces for accessibility. They had a handicap basketball league, which my little nephew was in. And so it was renowned throughout the region as a place where people with disabilities could go. But that was, in my opinion, it suffered from inferior construction because that should have lasted longer than it did, but it came into ill repair. So what I said was, and what we are getting ready to break down on, is restoring all of the amenities and putting in a passive walking track for people that want to run indoors, because there's a sizable population of track stars that got to go to colleges in the suburbs just to get an indoor workout.
I know that's
and
right.
we're dealing with that. So that, but here's the thing you need to know. That started as a like $12 million project. It is up to like 30 million.
Yeah, I
Due
saw
to
that.
inflation. It's crazy. There's a 1% inflationary rate on construction that, while we bumping our gums, that meter's still running.
Yes.
So that's something we had to do.
So on one of my previous podcasts, I talked about the 25% roughly Pennsylvania turnout at our last election. So what would your message be for, I say young people, but just for people that don't feel that they have a part to play or are less engaged than we would like them to be, to have their voices heard and do their civic duty?
So to a degree, we have failed them. And we have failed them because we are using, and I'm talking about Democrats now. We have used the old messaging, going back to Martin Luther King had a dream, and we marched across Credit Bridge and got beaten. And these are 40, 50-year-old reasons.
Mhm.
And today, our messaging should be to say, how do we keep you in your affordable home today? How do we help you at the grocery store today? How do we get you a living wage today? And we got to get better at making it more relevant to younger people. That 21% is a dangerous figure because that means, 79% ain't paying attention.
Decided to do nothing.
Decided to do nothing.
And I want to say, even with that number, sometimes, because I used to be the old man standing on the fence saying, go vote, and you did this, and all those old things that we throw at people. Yeah, and we can't shame people into voting, right? But those 79% made a statement too. Their statement was, I'm not interested in what you're selling, like you said.
What is, but so there are other parties which shall remain nameless on this podcast. They are keenly aware of that messaging. And it's even in the name of their party.
Yeah, okay.
And what they then do is say, so in a perfect world for me, I'd like to have a staffer or myself knock on your door and say, hey, what are the top 3 things you care about? Is it affordability? Is it crime? Is it education? Because all of them are benchmarks. How can I help you with affordability? Me and now Mayor Parker in your neighborhood knocked on her door, and it was like we were from The Price is Right or some game show. They were like, no, look, it's the mayor. And somebody else is with him, Jones. But it's the mayor, she's running. Yeah. And what they said, we're going to vote for you next month, but then we're moving. And she asked why. And they said, because all of these programs that you're putting for low-income people we make 10 cents more. So the how can we help you manifested itself into the home program, home ownership made easy, $800 million borrowing that now Mark Reason has a chance of applying for and getting, so that you stay in that neighborhood. 30,000 people have moved out of your area and other areas like it in Philly because of those reasons. And where do I send my kid to school?
I know that's right. And I don't want to have to bus them a ship out of the community when it's a viable school right up the street they can walk to.
Yep. The zip code across Lower Marion, it's a world of...
My last question. If every person listening to this podcast right now took one action step this week to connect with their local government and make their voice heard, what would you want that action to be?
Pay attention. Every week, starting in September, we will propose laws, pass legislation, deal with public policy. It gets more intense from January to June when we're determining the operating capital and budgets. If you can watch it live on public TV, Channel 65. You can YouTube it later. And even there's a function in YouTube that you could push and get the salient points of, if Jones talked too long, they cut it down for you. It doesn't get much easier than that. And then when there is something that strikes your interest, you should come down and put it on the record. At the end of the day, we work for you. If you have an employee that you don't from time to time evaluate, that's on you. We work for you. And so if Mark Reason is concerned about education, if he's concerned about taxation, then I need to know that from Mark Reason.
I definitely want to thank you for your time. Our conversation today was, we affectionately call him Mr. 4th District. Councilman Curtis Jones came into this conversation carrying decades of service, personal stories that forged him in the fire, and legislative record that speaks for itself. Police oversight, tenant protections, education accountability, community development, and the rebuilding of the Carousel House. All of those nuggets, and sitting down with us to share, because I know he has a lot on his plate, but he took the time to carve out about 40 minutes to speak to us about some things that's on his heart, but also share how he got here. And it's not rocket science. We can all get here. We just have to listen, be engaged, and ask questions, and just get out there and start. So again, I thank you for this episode. I thank you for your time. This has been really educational for me. And like I say in all of my episodes, stay curious, stay in the conversation. Peace.
Thank you, Mark.